In this video, we're going to demonstrate the power of using Oracle Application Express, otherwise known as Apex. Apex is the leading low-code application platform, allowing you to quickly provision high-quality, secure, and scalable applications to interact with your back-end data. Applications built using Apex can run on any device. They can be deployed as browser-based web apps, or even as progressive web apps for mobile devices. What low code means is that the vast majority of your coding effort can be done declaratively by selecting different configuration settings and by dragging and dropping components onto an application page designer. This can get you quickly off the ground with complex functionality handled for you, allowing you to spend more of your focus, if you wanted to, on enhancing the style through CSS modifications, and even extending functionality through client-side JavaScript and server-side SQL or PL/SQL procedures. Apex provides a robust set of APIs for both. My name is Chris Boyd, and I'm the Oracle Technology Lead here at Moser Consulting. What I'm going to do in this demonstration is start with a raw set of data in a JSON file, quickly upload it to an Oracle database, and build out a full-fledged application in less than 45 minutes with a variety of different types of pages, just to scratch the surface of what you can do with Apex. All right, let's get started. First, let's take a look at the file that I'm going to upload here. And again, since this is a demo, this is a little bit of playing around. We've just got data for English Premier League Soccer. So I've got a JSON file with the 20 teams in it. So there's some information at the team level, plus information about the stadium they play in. Then within each team, we've got information about each player for the team. And again, there could be players that appear on different teams throughout the year. So a unique identifier for the player is not just the player ID, but also the team identifier. That'll come into play later when I demonstrate this. But yeah, basically we've got high-level information about the player and some statistics. And then also separately, there's an array for each team's schedule. So both information about completed matches and matches to come. So that's what the JSON file looks like. So what we'll do here is in Apex, before we create an application, this is sort of the landing page for a workspace in Apex to build your app. We're going to go to the SQL workshop, and we're going to go to the backend Oracle database that this particular workspace is associated with. And we're going to create a soda collection, or in Oracle 23ii, it's now known as a JSON collection table. And we're going to load our raw JSON data into that table. We're going to call it EPL JSON. And so now, this is kind of just the raw data, what's in the JSON collection table. We're going to create some views against that raw JSON data in the database. And they're just going to sort of make the different levels of information, the teams, the players, the schedules, make them appear as if they're individual logically related tables. So we're going to create views against those. We're going to here start with the teams. And I'll just drop in the query behind that view. And again, a view is just a logical table. It presents itself as if it were a table with columns. And what we're doing is we're taking that raw JSON data and just parsing individual data elements out of it. So we'll create a view for the teams. We'll create a view for the players. And we'll create a view for the schedules. That's all we need to do here on the SQL workshop. We've just created all the objects in the database. So let's just go ahead and create the application. We'll just call this EPL demo. We'll give it a unique identifier for the application. And so right out of the box, when you create an application in Apex, you're going to get a default home page and a login page with the functionality necessary to authenticate into the application. Plus, there's a global page where you can lay out the actual structure, a common structure in terms of regions and everything else that you want to use for pages if you so chose. We're not going to do that, and in fact, we're not even going to use the default home page. We're going to create a page to make our home page a little later. But here in the shared components, this is sort of application level information. I'm going to upload a couple of files that we're going to use as images in the application. And then we're going to create a couple of list of values. This is just going to populate some drop-down list boxes. One for teams, and when you create a dynamic one and you put a query behind it, what you will specify are two columns you're selecting. One is what is going to be displayed in the list box, and one is what is going to be returned when they select that. So here's where you set those. And here, we'll create one for the types of competition the team can be involved in throughout the year. And that's all we need to do here at the overall application level for now. So let's go ahead and create our first page. And we're going to start out making it an interactive grid just to show you how quickly you can get off the ground here. We're going to call this player search because eventually I'm going to transform this on the fly into a search page. But here we put a query in for the data that's going to be displayed on the page. We're accessing various things in the database that we've just built. Okay, so it's already set as an interactive grid with just all the raw data in it. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and now I'm quickly going to go back and pivot a couple things here about the application. I'm going to change the home page to be this page we just created. So when you log into the app, it's going to go to that first. Plus, I'll make quick work of this, but I'm going to upload the icon. You could specify a different icon to use at various sizes. I'm just going to put the same one. So this is going to change the look all the way across the board in the application. So when we apply the changes, you'll see now I've got the Premier League logo. So now if I go back to the application level and I just run the application itself, here we just have our kind of rudimentary login page. I'm going to customize this here at the very end of the demonstration, but when we log into the app, we go to now our new page we created, and this is what an interactive grid looks like. I've got all the information in the query here, so it's a little ugly, and headings aren't the way you'd like them, but this is how quickly you can throw together an interactive grid type of a page. We're going to clean this up though. We're going to add some customization to it. The first thing that you can do right off the bat is in Apex you've got a theme roller where you can literally change the style on the fly. You can go to a dark style, kind of a Oracle look and feel. It's called Redwood. I'm going to stick with ours though, and what I'm going to simply do is change the accent color. away from this generic blue, or it can be red or a kind of a gray slate color on some of the other theme style selections. I'm just going to put the hex value of a shade of purple that comes close to the actual logo and icon of the Premier League. And when I save that change, it'll make me save my own custom theme style here. I'll just call it Vita Purple. And now we've just quickly transformed the look and feel of our pages in the application. So now back on our search page, let's make it a real search page. First thing I'm going to do is change this name of the region into a more appropriately named results region, and then I'm going to actually change it from interactive grid into a cards region. So all of the results will display as cards. And now here at the So now here at the card, since I've selected a different type of region here, for a card region, I can just simply add a few pieces of configurable information in here. I'm going to say for each card that displays, it's uniquely identified by a team ID and a player ID. It's going to be laid out in a grid fashion, and then in the card, title is going to be player name, subtitle team name. Here for our badge, I'm going to make it an image URL, and it's going to be the value of a column we're selecting called team logo. It's going to be a URL value in that column. And then likewise the media, the larger image that could be displayed on the card, we're going to make this the value of the image URL column. And so now, the other thing I'm going to do to this page is I'm going to change the template of the page to include a left side column. So once you drop in the left side column here, the results region that we've already been building out is going to still be to the right. We've now got a left side column, and I'm going to drop a different region in here called a faceted search. And so in this search region, I'm going to tell it, based on the search results I filter here, re-execute the query behind the results region. And I'm going to also take the header off of this search section here. And then by default it will give us a search field. And so I'm only going to allow it to search on the player name values. But I'm also going to create another facet here for the team. I'm going to leave it as a checkbox group, and then I'm going to go with the distinct values of the result set, and I don't want it to sort by the counts. I want it to literally sort by the name of the team, and since there are only 20 teams, I'll let them all display by default on the faceted search area. And then I need to point that at team name, the column value that I'm selecting. So just by making these changes, we have transformed our page into a faceted search page where you can search by player name. You can see all the Harrys that are playing in English soccer, and they love the name Harry. So you can search by that, or to kind of clean up all the images here to make them a little more uniform. Obviously, across the board with the team, the images kind of all look like this. And so here you can see the badges, the title, the subtitle, and the media, the main image. But you can't do much with this. So let's add one more piece of functionality to this search page by creating a modal dialog page that will launch when we click on that. So we're going to call this page player detail. It's going to be a modal dialog where it's just like a pop-up window. And so behind that, we're going to put a query in here where it's going to be passed the player and team ID. So here we'll again specify what makes a primary key, what makes the unique information on this form. So we'll do a couple of things at the high level here. First, we're going to wipe out title on this. We don't want that. And then here at the form level, we're going to make it by default display the value of the player name. I'm going to change the appearance to be a standard format, and then also I'm going to disable editing. It's just going to be a display only. So because of that, I can also get rid of the buttons by default that get created for this type of a form region. And then the other thing I wanted to point out too is whether you're dealing with a form or interactive grid region and you have the columns that your query behind it are selecting, you can also click on multiple columns and universally apply something. So I'm going to hide these two fields here. Just move them to the top. I'm going to also create another page item here. We're just going to, it's not even in the query, we're just adding one called player image. It's going to be a display image. And it's going to be tied to a particular page item value. I'm going to go ahead and hide the label too so that the label doesn't push the image further to the right. But then it's going to be based on, in this form region, the value of the player image URL. And so we're going to take this and we're going to move that to the top of the page. Here I want to also kind of select both of these, change them to smaller size text fields. Also take all three of the fields that are going to be displayed and change where their label appears. The label is going to appear to the left of each of them. And then for both of these, I'm going to keep them on the same row as the vital information for the player. And I'm going to add a little bit, just a tiny bit of CSS styling so that at the page level here, down here you can put inline CSS. I'm just basically going to do a few things to the main fields of the page and also take my player image and center it on the screen. Okay. I'm going to take we want to leave the header there. Sorry. All right. Now, we've built that. We want to go back, though, now to our parent page, the player search. And here's where we can link the two together. So in the cards region, I can add an action to that where it's a full card. They click on any part of the card. It will redirect to a page in this application called Player Detail that we've just built. We're going to pass the team ID from our page to the team ID on that modal dialog, and likewise do that for the player ID. So we pass those two pieces of information to our modal dialog, and then when we save it, you'll see here that these are all clickable now. When you click on them, they'll bring up our modal dialog with kind of the player's name, number, position, their image again, and some information about them in general. You can also add more things in here. You can put the stats for the player in a separate region for an interactive grid. You can do all kinds of things with this modal dialog, but that just shows you how you can link those two together. All right, so let's create a different type of page. Let's stick with that interactive grid. Let's do one in a different way here. We're going to build an interactive grid. We're just going to call it page 7, and we're going to call it squads. So behind this query, it's going to be our interactive grid. And so, again, I'll change a couple of things at a high level. Here on the interactive grid, I'm going to also add a region here for a list box. It'll just be a static region above our interactive grid. I'll just call it select region. And so inside this region, I'll create a item here called P7 team. We'll make it a list box. I'm going to make this, the label actually appear above it. So it'll move all the way to the left-hand side of the screen. And then what we populate it with, we'll go back to our shared components and we'll reference that list of values I created. I don't want to display any extra values, but I do want this to appear by default at the top. So say select team. Now, with that list box, I also want to create a dynamic action so that whenever someone changes their selection there, we're going to do an action called a refresh, and it's going to refresh the region, meaning it'll literally re-execute the query behind it. And then to make sure that we link those two together, page I'm going to submit here because that is our bind variable in this query. It'll select information for the specific team we select. Simple enough. Then on the interactive grid, we definitely don't want player ID and team ID. We can hide those. And we can also hide the first name and last name. It's sort of redundant. And hide this guy too. And then if I, just to tighten it up just a little bit, I can just change some of these headers real quickly. This is so all this information can appear on here a little cleaner. And then for these fields that actually appear on the screen, we will take all of these and we'll just center their header and the value that's on there. This will just kind of clean it up super quick here. So now, if we go to our new page here, squads, you can see that we've got a list box here and it still has an ugly title header on it. So we'll get rid of that. There we go. So now if you select a certain team, you'll see results here. The thing about the interactive grid that you can also do is you can get in here and change the sizes of things, of the columns, to set a default size to some of these. how to do it. You can also change the order of the columns. And just move the number up to here. When you save it, you'll see it displays a lot cleaner now. You can also do one other kind of cool thing here very quickly with it is I can take the player name, the individual column in this interactive grid. I can make this a link. And now I can link to another page in the application. Let's go to the player detail page that we just built. And so we're going to pass the team ID and player ID to that modal dialog. We can launch to the modal dialog from here. So now it's a link, and you can launch over to this player. And so you can build functionality across to other pages via links that way, and it's an interactive grid. And now if I just save that, all of these changes I made to it in terms of the column size, the column order, will be preserved on this page after logins or for any other user as well, since I'm an admin user building this. I can also, you can also search within the interactive grid, and all of this functionality is built in for you by the interactive grid. So component, so that's kind of cool. Next, let's create a calendar of the different schedule matches. So we can go back here. Let's create a new page, make it a calendar page, page 10. Call it calendar. We'll drop this query in there. Want to display the match description, and then the dates will be based on the match date column that's in our query here. But I don't just want to do that. Let me also get rid of the default title here. I don't just want to have the calendar, I want to have a region above this that will allow us to have a list box here. Let me get rid of the header for that region I just created, and then we'll create a list box item. Going to be able to filter by the types of go to share components. We'll do the types of competition. And here I'm going to do something a little different. I'm still not going to display extra values, but for the null value, it's going to display this, but it's going to return a value of all. So this will allow the query is put together in such a way that it will query either for a specific competition that gets returned by this, or if they don't select anything, they leave all there, it's going to return a value of all, and all matches will display on the calendar. So that's kind of how that will work. And then of course, since this is a list box, we got to create some dynamic action here. And again, I'll just call this anything, change event. So when a change is made to that list box, we're going to refresh the calendar. And so the action is refresh. The region is the calendar region that we've got here. All right. What I've also done in this query is I've got a derived column that's going to, I can just show that here. I've got a column where, based on the competition, I'm deriving a certain value for a field that I'm calling CSS class. These are going to be different classes dynamically based on the type of competition that particular match has. So coinciding with the values that are going to be in that derived column. Here at the page level, I'm going to just drop off, it's just some simple CSS, and it's just different background colors based on the name. So let me just drop those in there as well. And then again, tying this form refresh to the select list box, I gotta have the page item to submit there, that competition. And one other thing is here in the calendar, I want to show the time, but I don't want any of these. I just want it to display the navigation calendar view. And I want to only have 5 events show up in the day at a time. And then right here is where I can apply a CSS class to each individual event in that day. And it could be color-coded based on the type of competition. All right, so let's take a look and see how that looks. So here, refresh the page. Here we see our calendar. And there it is. There's all competitions. And it's kind of cluttered, but as you can see, various different types of competitions. The purple are the Premier League matches, red are different kinds of cup competitions. I believe it's the FA Cup. Yeah. So you can filter by different competitions, and you can see those particular events that are scheduled to happen that day. This is slightly old data, so it's showing these as games that have yet to be played. But if you go back in time a little bit, you can see here that these are that there are results for an event that happened. So you can just filter only by Premier League, and you can see just the Premier League regular season matches. So one other wrinkle that you can add to this is back here on attributes. You can say view or edit link. And so when they click on a particular event, we don't want to go to a page in the application. We just want to go to the URL itself, and it's going to have the value of the result URL column in our calendar query. So by adding that little piece of functionality, when we refresh the page, now for ones that have actually happened where there is a result, you can click on this and it will go, in this case it's a URL to ESPN.com's summary of the match. So that's kind of cool how you can just build clickable link functionality even to an external URL, not just to an Apex page that you have built. So the final thing I want to add here to our little app is a dashboard app. It'll just show you kind of some of the cool ways that you can quickly build interactive reporting. So now we'll create one final page here. It's going to be an interactive reporting page based on charts and graphs. And the initial region we're going to build here is going to be a pie region. We'll just call this page dashboard. And so the query behind the first of the regions that we're going to build here is for a pie chart. And here it's just going to be players across the entirety of the JSON data grouped by the country of origin. And we'll just set 15 as the maximum rows to display just to have it sort of clean. And so here on this page, let me just change the region here to just the nationality region, and we're just going to limit that, show a legend, label. So really quickly, you can see how this is interactive grid here. You've got a legend here that'll highlight the different things. All this functionality is built for you by default. You got a little tooltip here that shows you how many players were from England versus Sweden and Spain. So again, I'll take this title here and give it something more meaningful. I'll just call it countries. And we're going to go ahead and create another region below that. This one is going to be for the number of titles teams have won at the top level, whether it's Premier League or anything before it. And we'll just call this titles region. We'll give it that. It's going to also be a chart. In this case, though, it's going to be a bar chart. And I'm going to turn the series name off here. And then for the series level, we'll drop the query in here. And so there we go. And then likewise, we'll create a third region just for grins, where it'll be for team scoring. And this too will be a chart, and then we're going to make it a bar chart. And for the series level here, I'll just name it something different. It doesn't have to be. So this is where you integrate the query. So now it'll be team name and total goals will be the X and Y axis. And so boom. This is how you can create 3 different regions. Here's by title, by number of titles. Manchester United has 20 overall. Liverpool has 19, about to be 20 this year apparently. And then scoring. Liverpool scored 66 goals so far in the season, and Arsenal 49. So all of this functionality is spun up for you by just a few clicks. So that's the dashboard page. Now I'm going to make a couple of tweaks now here at the end to the application level itself. So if we go into shared components and we go into lists, we're going to look at the navigation menu, and it's literally created a page for everything. We don't need a menu selection to go to the modal dialog, and in fact they're not on there. But what you can do here is I can get into the home page. We're really not even using it, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that page. And then for the player search, we're just going to, we can change the icon image next to it. And for squads, we'll put a different one in there. Calendar. Do something a little different. And these are all images that are supplied by Apex. You can certainly upload your own. Add them, but just out of the box you have a lot to work with here. And then I'm going to make one stylistic change to the login page. I go to the page level here for the general login page. I go to CSS. Just going to drop a couple things in here. I'm going to change kind of the look of the button to match our more or less purple color scheme, but then also change the background image to an animated GIF. And so it'll snazz it up a little bit. So if we go back here and we log out, here's what the login page looks like now. You can put background images here. You can got the color scheme looks a little more uniform with what we've developed. So that's how you can launch to the different, or that's how you can customize the login page. And then here, if I log back in real quick, I can show the impact of our icons. It just jazzes it up a little bit. But anyway, that's literally how you can build a fairly robust application in under an hour. And then basically from there, like I mentioned, you can build whatever you want, whatever customization you want. You can even build your own components very quickly using just HTML, and save them and utilize them throughout your application, and then configure functionality behind them. You can build your own configurable options that you can set on each page for them. So Apex is a really powerful, really cool application builder, and you can do a lot of things with it.